Hey guys, it's Ross over at the Daily Jaws with somebody very, very, very special. An absolute Jaws legend. He's an Oscar nominated, BAFTA award winning production designer of Jaws and Jaws 2, and also the director of Jaws 3. Guys, please welcome Jaws legend Joe Alves to the Daily Jaws. Joe, welcome.
Nice to be here.
Thank you. Well, obviously, we've got a lot to get through because obviously you are one of almost like the founding members of Jaws. You were the first person hired on the original. As we say, you're a production designer on the second and director of the third. Obviously, you came onto Jaws as a production designer. Now, what does a production designer do?
A production designer uh, designs the movie. He's responsible for everything visually. In other words, finding the locations, working with the director, of course, doing storyboards, getting the illustrator, set designs, using draftsmen and whatever. So the whole visual concept is the production designer. Now, in that department, you have set designers who would do the architectural drafting, illustrators do the illustration, then you have art directors that work with the production designer. Production designer credit didn't exist years ago. William Carmen Menzies got it for Gone with the Wind, and then occasionally it was used in the 50s and the 60s, a couple different people, but in the 70s it became very popular to make everybody a production designer. So, like Night Gallery, I was an art director basically, but later they started calling me a production designer. So it's just but basically that person is responsible for all the visuals.
So, Joe, let's talk a little bit about Jaws 2, because again, that's another movie that you were deeply involved in. First of all, can you believe it's been 45 years since Jaws 2?
No, everything I've done is so long ago. That was I was doing Close Encounters when they started Jaws 2.
Mm.
I just finished Close Encounters, as I told you. I was coming back, and I was thinking, because doing Close Encounters, I just met some girl on there who they do dog racing in Alabama, and she would get some of the dogs that were thrown away, so to speak, and she would run them on the beach. And so she got to know her, and she said, on Sundays we'd go to Pensacola and walk on the beach, and these dogs were beautiful. And I thought, God, there's no boats, there's nothing out here, just the ocean. If we ever do a Jaws 2, this is where we should do all the ocean stuff. Okay.
Mm.
That was in my mind. So when I was coming back, I heard they were doing a Jaws 2. And I thought, okay, if they ever, I guess they want to do it in Martha's Vineyard, but all the ocean stuff should be in Florida. Anyway, yeah, 45 years. So
Crazy, crazy. I mean,
yeah,
I'm 44 this year, so Jaws 2 is like 1 year older than me, and I feel like I've been on this planet long enough sometimes. Do you know what I mean? So I can't believe that there's movies out out there that you've
I'm
worked on
really,
that are even older. So in terms of Jaws 2, I think this is probably one of the most asked questions that we get as a community. So, and obviously you're the guy to answer this. The mechanical sharks in Jaws 2, how did they differ from the original design? Were there sort of any improvements or any further innovations, or was it literally just because it was a little bit bigger? Because the sharks in this one were 30 feet, weren't they? And the shark in the original was 25. Is that correct?
Doctor Two is same shark.
Ah,
Same. It was only in three that we made it 30 feet because Simon McGorkindale had to be inside of it. So two was the same shark, just really refined, taken
mm.
away some of the things that would break, or insulated the electrical more and stuff like that.
Do you feel the shark in the second one worked better because of the refinements that you made and you were able to do more with it? Because obviously, as you mentioned before, John Hancock had quite a lot of ideas in terms of what he wanted the shark to do.
I directed a lot of the shark on
Mm.
Jaws 2, hitting the helicopter, coming up through the transom, with the boats. Uh, it it worked quite well, but there was always problems. Let me just say this. First of all, forget about the shark not working. How about the water? We were in a better place in Florida. We had no boats out there, but you have an 8 o'clock shoot, right? And you're going to go out there, and let's say I'm going to do the helicopter. So I need to get a helicopter that's not real, just with breakaway, you know, propellers. I need to get a boat, crew boat, camera boat, uh, a effects boat, and you got to anchor everything out. So 8 o'clock, the water is calm.
Mhm.
10 o'clock, it starts getting a little choppy. By 11 o'clock, again. So we're not just fighting whether a shark will work, whether the water is going to work. The
All right.
water is incredible. It's not predictable. It
Yeah.
could be smooth and then it could be crazy. I was doing this thing with Ann Dusenberry, and we had all these water spouts, and she was out on the boat crying because she just lost her boyfriend, and she was, Joe, there's water spouts, there's water spouts. I said, yeah, well, there's only, no, there's two. And then she was freaking out. And so I sent her to give her a bottle of brandy. She was only she had confessed to me because all the kids were like in their teens. She, after we were shooting, she says, you know, I'm 25 years old. I said, oh, well, too late now. Yeah. In any case, so yeah, the shark worked much more consistent.
Mm.
Uh, in that particular thing where I was shooting the helicopter, the first day, and this is how, so you go out there, you do all this preparation. Okay, so start the helicopter blades, get the shark ready. The blade started going, and then the thing just flipped over, broke all the blades. It's a cut because we only had one helicopter. Second day, got everything all set up. Okay, get the shark. Somehow it, in moving the shark, it went over and grabbed the camera boat and wrecked that. And
Yeah.
third day, third day, the shark got the helicopter, flipped it over. It was perfect. So that was 3 days of second unit to get that shot. It was water, it was different things, you know. So you
Mm.
can't blame it all on the shark, you know.
No, absolutely. I mean, that's the thing, isn't it? I mean, you're working in probably the most unpredictable circumstances. So throw in a hyper complex or hyper complex for the time, animatronic, pneumatic,
Right.
hydraulic thing that isn't really meant to be in the water in the first place. And yeah, it's going to be very tricky, isn't it? So again, testament to the amazing work that you and the team did. In terms of the production itself, obviously there was a change of directors. From what we understand, you weren't on the production when John Hancock was on it. What was the mood during that production? Because again, we've heard various stories that it was quite strained in certain aspects, and it seemed to be centering around specifically Scheider and the director.
When Janot Schwartz came in, because
Yeah.
Hancock really worked with him. Hancock started the first sequence on the wharf with the kids.
Hmm.
And so when I came aboard, I think John had it was Dorothy Tristan, I think was his wife, wrote the script. It was a total different mood.
Mm.
In other words, he wanted everything to look bad. He wanted the boats the kids sailed on to look dark, moody. I even shot some second unit of walking around the town, and there was broken picket fences. In other words, what he was saying is after Jaws, the town of Amity collapsed. Nobody came in, nobody took care of anything. So he wanted a real dark mood. He didn't want the kids in fun boats. He wanted it to look dark, which didn't make a lot of sense. But anyway, that was his thinking.
Hmm.
So what happened basically in the middle, before we started shooting, we had a lot of preparations. He decided to do a play with Tennessee Williams. So he was
Okay.
doing a play. I met Tennessee. It was a big honor to be Tennessee. in Hollywood. He was doing a play. I said, but John, you got so much work to do for this movie. Oh yeah, yeah, but no problem. So I took the whole shark thing and moved it to Florida, to you know near Pensacola, and I got that set up. And then I went to see first day of shooting. Tom Joyner was now production manager, who was the first assistant on the first Jaws, and he was just shooting the kids on the dock, no shark or anything. It was about 3 o'clock. This was in the summer, and he wanted to wrap. And I'm now a associate producer, so I'm involved with everything, actors,
Mm.
and I was involved with some of the casting. So Tom and I said, we got another 4 hours of light. You can't quit now. When you're making a movie, you shoot from the light. I mean, you don't wrap when you got another 2-3 hours of light. You shoot as what you can because locations are expensive. So
Mm.
we went down and talked to John, and he says, well, I'm having a little hard time, and I said, well, John, if you're having a hard time with this, wait till you get to the shark. I mean, I really liked the guy. He was very, very nice. We'd go surf fishing together and stuff. And so I left it. I left him with Tom, and I went to Florida, and I was working on the shark with Bob Matty and the crew down there, getting that set up. And I get a call that they just fired John Hancock.
Mm.
So I came back to LA. They stopped everything, all the effects and things, and basically talked to Verna Fields. She's has a position with the studio now, some kind of production person there, and so they thought of shutting it down or getting directors like Otto Preminger, and I said, well, you can't get Otto Preminger. If you want to shoot this thing, we've got it all together, and you want to release it next summer, we got to get a director that could come in and start shooting in a couple of weeks, modify
Mm.
whatever. And so Ned Tannen, who is now president of production, I got to know Ned pretty well. He said, "Oh, you and Verna want to direct it?" I said, "Yeah, we've checked that the union won't let us do it." So I said, "There is a director that I worked with on all these directors I worked with on Night Gallery, John Badham, Steven Spielberg, John Aston." I said, "There was this director, French director, I did 23 episodes with, who, he had very little production. You have 2 or 3 days preparation, and I would walk them through the sets, and he would find a way to improve it. I said, he's right on top of it. I think he could come in and start shooting this in a couple of weeks."
Mhm.
So he made a movie. Can't remember the name of it. And Verna looked at it. She said, "Yeah, it's good." So I went up and sold it to Ned Tannen, and Danica Brown. And okay, so he came on, and then we got Carl Gottlieb to come back on and start
Yeah.
rewriting. We all moved to Florida. As you know, actually never went to Martha's Vineyard. We shot some second unit there, run-bys and things. I think Bill Gilmore shot some of that stuff. But basically, we were all in Navarre Beach, Florida.
Mhm.
He had a problem with Scheider because he had to work with Scheider. A number of things. Scheider didn't want to do the movie. Number two, Scheider would wear the little black bikini bathing suit kind of thing, tights or bikini, and he would go out in the sun with a reflector on his face,
I've
and it
heard
would,
about this. Yeah.
and it was, the beaches were so white, and Bill Butler, Michael Butler, the cameraman, said he's just getting darker and darker. I'm not going to be able to match this. So we all went to Roy and said, "Roy, you got to stop this thing." He ignored everybody. He did what he wanted to do. he and Jeannot had a physical confrontation in Verna Field's office, and so it was very, very difficult.
Mm.
And what I found Jeannot was really quite good. We got shooting, but he had a problem with the effects department because he was used to doing so much television, which was quick, 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 quick. When he had to wait for an hour or 2 hours, I said, "What's that?" "Well, they're trying to get the shark light up. You got to do all this."
Mm.
And he kept saying, you know, he was not happy waiting around. I'm
It's just
impatient.
a different way of working for him, I guess, isn't it? Just
Yeah, so that
yeah.
that was the problem he had was, I'm getting bored. He said, I'm getting bored. Yeah, but he should have, he affected some of the friends of mine that were effects guys weren't happy with Jeannot. Now,
Yeah,
Jeannot is a good friend. We used to go out drinking and everything, but we did have a problem there that he was too impatient.
yeah,
Uh,
yeah,
but, and I shot a lot of shark stuff, and then he cut it out on his cut, and then Verna Field put it back in. So it was a thing about, he's the director. There was too much of my stuff there, but I guess he just wanted it cut with less, and Verna put more shark. And anyway, yeah, we did the studio because they were more influential then.
Mm.
It was made as a studio picture, not off. They were saying, "Oh, more shark, more shark." So I did shoot a lot of stuff we didn't need, and Chanel did cut quite a bit out, but Verna did put out, some of the pretty. I mean, I shot the one where the girl gets the boat blows up, the shark hits her, she throws gas on the shark
Yeah,
and gets the scar. Yeah, I directed that sequence. So he was dealing with the actors, he was dealing with the Schreider and all that stuff. So I shot so much of the stuff that didn't require major actors, just
mm.
some of the kids.
And was there anything that you shot that wasn't included in the final cut that you kind of hoped would have been, or that you think might have been interesting to have included?
I'm trying to think about, because there were some shots that I was hoping. This is the one I'm thinking where the shark bites the line and blows up. Yeah, gets burnt. Um, that one I had some big. That's when I let's see. I built the lighthouse. I built that huge lighthouse for that sequence. Yeah, the Orca, big, yeah, whale is laying there in the lighthouse. And yeah,
Yeah,
it was fun. The kids in the tambourine, yeah.
yeah.
Okay,
What about the start of the film? Obviously, we get to see the orca again. What can you tell us about sort of that sequence and how was that done and where was that shot?
the Orca.
Yeah, right at
Oh,
the beginning of Jaws 2, the two scuba divers dive to the wreck of the orca, and then
oh
that's when you
yeah,
see the first shark attack.
yeah. We did that in Catalina. Yeah, and yeah, but they didn't have a good boat. I didn't like the boat. Somebody did that off camera. I mean, yeah, I didn't.
So that
It
wasn't under
had,
your supervision because the hull looked quite different.
yeah, yeah.
What I noticed, yeah.
They shot that without me being involved, and I wasn't
Okay,
happy with that at all. I didn't like what it looked like. Yeah,
yeah, no, fair
but
enough.
they could have gotten. We could have done better. We could have got the
Yeah,
orchid. The pieces of that were still around on the vineyard. We
mm,
could have.
yeah,
They they did it. I, they could have done it before I was even on the picture or something, because
mm,
they started shooting stuff before.
yeah.
Yeah,
Okay, well, fair enough. That's interesting to know that you weren't involved in it. And as you say,
no, I
when you
didn't
look
like.
at that
I didn't
orca,
like
it
that
does
stuff.
look quite different. So makes
It
sense
was
that
not
maybe
good.
you weren't involved because it would have been closer. What are your sort of overall thoughts of the movie, sort of Jaws 2? When you look at it, I mean, I don't know when the last time you saw it was, but what do you think of it as a sequel or just as a movie in its own right?
I mean, I thought it worked pretty good because I thought it took the kids and made a happy situation and all the sailing, and they're going to
Mm,
have fun. And so it was different than what John Hancock had of a dark mood. This was kids outgrew that. That happened how many years before? So they're now teenagers. They're not afraid of sharks and stuff like
Mm.
that.
Obviously, you've been involved in the first three Jaws movies. You've been around the industry for, decades now. What do you think it is that makes Jaws, not necessarily just the original, but the Jaws series, sort of have its longevity? And what do you think makes a good shark movie outside of, say, the Jaws series? And what shark movies come to mind when you think about stuff outside of Jaws that you think have been particularly impressive for you?
Watch them.
You don't watch them. I guess you've made the greatest shark movie of all time, so why would you?
I mean, it's just I was interested in making movies,
Mm,
and just because it's about a shark, I'm not interested. I wouldn't go to a theater. And if there's something on, no, I've seen the sharks. Oh yeah, well, I mean, I may flip on and watch for a few minutes. So the CGI sharks are really, really good, really smooth.
mm,
Uh, but I really sort of lost interest in shark movies. Do you
yeah.
know what I mean?
Yeah,
I
no,
was
no, absolutely. I mean, you've made the first sort of three. You've had key parts in the first two. You were director of the third, and now we understand it wasn't a great experience. So, yeah,
I could talk about Close Encounters. I could talk about Escape from New York. Yeah, I had a snake movie. Yeah,
a
I had a
snake
movie
movie,
somewhere we're going to do about sort of a shark. It was a Jaws with snakes, with a
Jaws with
snake.
snakes. It wasn't on a plane, was it, Joe?
Yeah, no.
He wasn't that one.
And we prepared that, but then that didn't happen. What was that called?
Well, we've got a few questions now just from a few people that have been following us. They've been dying to sort of ask you these for years, no doubt. The next couple of questions are from Phil from my native land, the UK. The first question that Phil has is: what shot of Bruce in Jaws and Jaws 2 do you absolutely love and feel it is executed the way you intended?
Well, obviously the one breaking into the cabin on
Hmm.
Jaws 1. And they're coming up through the transom. There are some really great shots. I
Hmm.
can't speak of one, but the shark really, really worked good breaking through that.
And Phil's second question is: when you design something as iconic as Bruce the Shark, do you feel sad you couldn't take it away and look after it so it didn't end up rotting on the back lot? Good question.
Well, isn't that interesting? It did rot away. It was awful big to put in my backyard, uh, and just getting it here. Uh, but it still it lives right now in the museum, the Motion Picture Museum in Beverly Hills. And so it's sort of rewarding to go there and look at it and see
Yeah,
the size of it and people's reaction to it. So
lovely.
it it hasn't gone away. It's been rebirthed.
Yeah, rebirthed and recreated by Greg Nicotero and his amazing team under your guidance. And the final fan question, is Sebastian from California. Uh, Sebastian says, I'm a great fan of your work as production designer on Rod Serling's The Night Gallery. How did designing for such a groundbreaking horror fantasy series prepare you for roles in the Jaws films, not just as art director, but as second unit director on Jaws 2 and eventually director of Jaws 3?
The thing about Night Gallery, I was a staff art director, so you get whatever show they give you. You're going to do McHale's Navy, or you're going to do this, and then the Henry Bumstead and George Webb, they're more pristine-ish production designers. The older guys have been around, and they did a lot of big movies. Uh, how I got Night Gallery is sort of a surprise because it was like my second year of being an art director and stuff. I've been an assistant, but And I did a show called The Psychiatrist. Stephen did two of those, and that was a pretty successful show. Um, then Night Gallery came around, and it was unbelievable because there would be 2 or 3 episodes an hour. So I would have so many sets to do. The directors hardly had a chance. They had a day or two prep. So I pretty much had to come up with the designs and sort of lay out the, and I learned a lot from Hitchcock. Hitchcock, we would only have to build half sets because he knew what he wanted. You
Mm.
know, he would say, Mr. Newman's walking down the stairs here. Al Whitlock is going to do a painting there. He walks over to the desk here. Okay. And then I said, what about over here, in the back river? No, just build that. So having that background, trying to think, because Hitchcock was an art director in England before he was a director. I started thinking, and I worked with Frank Arrigo, who was his assistant, and Frank had directed a lot of television for a review before they became a part of Universal. So I really learned from him and Hitchcock how to think as a director, uh, uh, as a designer. So I was just building things that I, thought we needed, and I had to do 2, 3, sometimes sets a week, to the point that the producer said, Joe, take 10 scripts and go through them and see what sets, if you have to build them, that you could reuse on a different episode. So then they scheduled the shows so that we could build this set. It was one in the jungle, and then re-modify it for the next week's second. So anyway, I had a lot of control, and it taught me so much. It gave me the sense of confidence that I could do it, because I would work with these directors. It's Jeff Corey, who was a great drama coach, an actor, and then I think he went to one communist meeting in the 30s and they stopped his acting, but he was a coach, and he coached some big actors, Jack Nicholson and all these. Anyway, he was directing on these segments, and I would say to him, okay, Jeff, you come in here, your actors are here, you come over there, blah, blah, blah. Yeah, okay, I got it. So I walked in and he says, oh, I brought him in the wrong way, and I got all things. So my confidence was even showing directors, you're going to walk here, walk to the window like that. And I had interesting conversation with Sterling, Rod Sterling. He was shooting the intros. We're sitting there with Janelle. And I said to Rod, my God, Rod, it's incredible, all the stuff that you've written. You're such a great writer, and you just write it. And he turns to me and he said, well, Joe, yeah, I write them, but you make them happen. I says, what? He says, you visually make what I write happen. Oh, okay. That was really a hell of a compliment,
Yeah.
But what it did is it gave me confidence. If I could do all these shows and work with directors and change things, and Night Gallery was really controlling what we shoot when, and influencing the directors a lot. So when Marshall Green said, can you build a shark? Sure. Why not? That was it. A lot of directors, a lot of the staff people, you got the same money. You made just a little bit over scale, whether you're doing a difficult show or an easy show. A lot of them wanted to do easy shows because they didn't have to do much.
Yeah.
Come in, check the set in the morning, go have your coffee, go have your lunch, come back. Okay, I did a set with Marcus Welby, and the art director, been around for years and years. And so he went on vacation. So I did, so I read the script. I said, oh, we got to build a set. And the producer said, we haven't built a set in years in this show. I said, you don't build a set? No. I said, but how do you? oh yeah, let's build a set, you know. So this is, I guess, my aggressiveness, you know,
Mm,
happened. And Night Gallery gave me the confidence to do that, you know,
yeah.
made everything else easy.
What a fantastic answer. Well,
We were
that's
talking
that's
for about
that.
3 hours.
Uh, yeah, nearly. Yeah, and that's the last question. Honestly, Joe, I am blown away by the level of knowledge and energy and stories that you have to share. I mean, I'm sure we probably only just scratched the surface, but absolutely incredible. Thank you so much for just spending so much time with us today. I know when we first met in 2015, the Daily Jaws had just kind of started. But
Yeah.
just to let you know, we've grown to over 200,000 followers.
Oh, wow.
We have over 1 million readers a year. It's all to do with the legacy of your work on Jaws. It's it really is. It's incredible. Jaws is alive and well. There's a lot of people out there that love and appreciate the work that you do or that you've done and the contribution you've made. So again, we can't put a price or a value on the time that you've given us today. But on behalf of all the Jaws fans, just thank you so much just for being you,
Okay,
Joe, for
well,
just doing some amazing work, man.
it was fun. It was fun.
If you love Jaws, sharks, and shark movies, then please follow us on Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, and also visit our website, thedailyjaws.com, for all the latest Jaws news and stories.